What is up, guys? This video is going to be an update on some stuff that I finished up on the Dakota so that we can begin working on the next video. So right now all of the front end suspension is put back together. Fortunately, I didn't end up being able to make a video on it because I lost a lot of the footage that I had been recording, about a good portion of the first half of what would have been that video, and I decided after losing it that I was just going to get it done and move on. You guys have seen me do bushings before when I did the rear end suspension on this truck back last March. So if you are interested in seeing how bushings are done and all that stuff, you can go back and look for those videos. If I remember to, I'll put a link to one of them in the description so you guys can go and watch it if you're curious how to install polyurethane bushings on your stock suspension. So on the front end, first thing you'll notice, I've completely stripped the truck. All the brake lines and random wires and stuff are gone. Some of the main wiring harnesses are still here, but everything else has been completely removed, even under the truck, which I'll show you guys in a second. But all of the suspension is 100% back together. So we got the energy suspension bushings in the upper control arms, lower control arms. We get the end links for the sway bar and the sway bar bushings in, as well as the brand new upper and lower ball joints. Everything has been cleaned up, rust treated, and painted as well, which is why everything looks so good down here. There's a few things I chose not to paint because they might be getting replaced at some point, or because I just didn't want to bother with them. Oh, and we got the new bushings in the rack as well. So all of this stuff is 100% put back together. The truck rolls and it steers. It does all that very well now. Of course, the alignment is totally out of whack. I originally, when I put it together, had the toe was set so far out the thing was hard to push, like they were scrubbing on the floor, so I've readjusted them a little bit earlier so that I could push the truck around and roll it a little bit easier. But I can't actually dial in the alignment until the truck's put back together, because it has to have all the weight on the front end, because it adjusts the angle of the tie rods, which pulls the suspension in or out. And then it'll be getting an actual alignment once I get it to a point where I can drive it to work and get it done. So that's where we are at, and this is what we are looking at. I got new pads on it as well, because one of the old ones, something happened to it and it was worn unevenly, so I got new pads in the front. The brake line brackets I cleaned up and painted. I rust treated the ends of the hoses. Those are new. I replaced them a couple of years ago, so I reused all that stuff, just cleaned things up, threw some paint on like the brackets and stuff, and just got everything looking good. Wheel bearings are all put back together. Of course, the wheels are all back on. And I wanted to show you guys what I did for the upper ball joints, because in the teardown video I mentioned the threads that hold these upper ball joints in are a common issue, and I did end up having to weld these things in. You can see a bead right here. So there's two beads, there's one here, there's one on the other side that you can't see. Once I had these things screwed in, the one on the driver's side, if you tried cranking it down, the threads would slip and it would pop up, and then it would, tighten down to a certain point and pop again. So I ended up screwing them down as far as I could, and then putting a couple of welds on them. They aren't going to go anywhere. There really isn't any weight put on these things, but from between the suspension turning and bumps and vibrations and stuff, they will eventually work their way out if they are not welded into place. This is a common issue. It's not a mistake that I made. It's not a mistake that anybody made other than the engineers that decided that threaded ball joints was a good idea. This is pretty much common practice for any shop that does ball joints on one of these trucks. They always weld them in because you don't want to risk them coming apart on the customer that it's for. So that's how I found out about welding them. That's why I did it. And if I ever have to replace the ball joints again in the future, I'm going to be in trouble. I'm probably going to have to find control arms. But hopefully, since these are serviceable ball joints, you can pump grease into them. And they are quality stuff. They're through Mevotech, so as long as I keep them greased and replace the boots if necessary, they should last a very long time. The original ball joints in the truck were still good, but I didn't want to throw all this stuff back together with 20-something-year-old suspension components still on it. So as I mentioned, I did finish tearing down a bunch of other stuff. So all the brakes are completely removed except for the master cylinder. I even got the proportioning valve off of the bottom. All of these zero gauge power cables and the fuel lines and everything, and the main wire harness for the rear half of the truck I also removed. I used to kind of run down through here. All that stuff is getting reran and relocated to more appropriate locations that'll look better and be safer for them. So in the meantime, I've removed them, and I also removed them because we're doing some frame repair on this truck next video. So I'll take you guys to the back here and you'll see that we've been busy back here as well. First thing you'll notice is that the bed's gone, so As you guys know, I got a new bed for this truck, so the old one, took it off. It's actually just sitting in the backyard somewhere out there right now before waiting for me to just haul it off to a scrapyard and get rid of it. The bed had to come off just because I'm replacing it, also because there's a lot of frame repair to be done on this truck before I can put the new bed on, before I can run fuel lines, before I can run brake lines and all that stuff. The framework has to be finished first before I can start putting anything else onto this truck. So frame repair will include fixing this hole, that hole, covering up those holes, which are actually for the emergency brake cable. And then there's a little bit of rust right there. More the e-brake cables, which kind of rusted out around where they originally were. Those were holes for the old fuel tank brace that sat here. There was a big hoop that was right here, which I'm not putting back on. And then right here, there was a support bar for both the frame, and it also supported the bed and the gas tank. That is actually sitting right there, and it's got a rust hole in it as well that I need to fix. And there's a couple of other little tiny spots that need patched up. There's a spot just like the one that is down here over on this side, just not as bad. And then there is a rust hole right here that I need to patch up. That's where the old bump stop used to be, and I'm probably going to mirror that patch on this side as well, just so that the two sides are matching, and I'm sure that side is thin if this one was going through that badly. There really aren't any more rust holes or real thin spots anywhere in this section of the frame. This thing is all gross looking, but it's actually very solid. Same goes for this. There really isn't anything else that has corroded through and gotten severe in this area. All of the damage is, you know, where the front brackets here are forward. So my plan, which I'll talk about it more, is to basically fully box the inside, patch up all the rust, and then fix all the other little spots here and there that need patched as well. And once all that's done, we'll be rust treating the frame, throwing some black paint on everything. The whole rear end's going to come out of this truck again, so I can get into every little nook and cranny of this thing. And once that's done, then we'll be rerunning fuel lines, brake lines, wiring, and all that stuff can go back on. The new bed can go back on as well. Wanted to get you guys caught up on all of this. Wanted you guys to be able to see the suspension being completed before I went and started working on all of the frame stuff. A little look at kind of what's coming up next. So of course, frame repair is first. I'm probably going to start working on that today. And then once frame repair is done, I'm going to run brake lines and get the whole brake system working again. And I'll be putting the rear end back in because it's going to come out while I'm doing all the framework in the back. I'll be sticking the bed back on it, putting the fuel cell back on it, and running the back section of the fuel hoses probably, maybe getting the fuel pump put back in. And from there, we'll be stripping a lot of the interior, cleaning up some of the stuff in there, and then the transmission is going to need rebuild after that. There's going to be some more rust treating going on, probably the drive shaft and the transmission cross member there. And then we'll begin working on the engine. That's getting some head bolts and some cleanup and a couple other little things here and there. And then it'll all be going back into the truck. And once everything is back into the truck, we'll be doing wiring, because that's, you know, the last thing. Wiring can't be done until everything is in its permanent location. So yeah, there's a lot of work to do. My goal is to have this truck done by maybe mid to late June. We'll see how I can keep up on that, but that's a good look at what is coming up next. So very next thing's going to be working on the frame. I'm probably going to start that video today, like I said. Wanted to get you guys caught up on everything that has been going on the last couple of weeks, so that we can just move forward and start working on the next thing. So that's going to be it for this video. I'm going to try and keep this short and sweet. Appreciate you guys watching. Hope you have enjoyed, and I will see you all later.